Today, I'm going to be reading Chapter 8 of Ground Zero by Alan Gratz. This chapter is titled The American Devil. Rashmina took a deep breath and made her decision. I am here. She told the soldier in English, I will go and bring my father to help you. No, wait, the soldier said. Please don't leave me. I can see. He reached out a hand. Rashmina took a step back and shook her head. Then remembered the soldier couldn't see her. I cannot touch you, she told him. I was forbidden for a woman or girl to touch a man who wasn't related to her. Anguish and frustration seized the soldier's face. Right, of course, he said, lowering his hand. He sniffed, fighting back tears. Rashmina understood why the soldier was distraught. He was badly injured and alone. Rashmina was the only hope for his survival, and if she left him now, he wouldn't be sure. He couldn't be sure she would return. She had a thought. I could not touch you, and I could not bring you back to my home without asking my father first, Rashmina said. Instead, I will walk back to my home very slowly. No, please, the soldier said again, cutting her off. Don't leave me. Rashmina huffed. He wouldn't let her finish. I will walk back to my home very slowly, Rashmina said again, and I will practice my English out loud along the way. If somebody happens to follow me, there is nothing I can do to stop them. Rashmina saw the soldier relax, then nod. I understand, he whispered. Thank you. Rashmina turned around and began walking slowly back toward her house. She opened her notebook and practiced her English lessons again. Thank you for inviting me to the movies with you, she read aloud. She glanced behind her. The soldier was struggling to crawl after her, but at least he was moving. Rashmina kept reading. It was very nice to meet you. I will friend you on Facebook. As she walked and read aloud, Rashmina scanned the hillside, afraid that any moment a Taliban fighter would jump out from behind some bush or twisted tree and kill both her and the soldier behind her. It was silly. She could see no one else was around, but if she was caught. At least Rashmina reached her house. The American soldier was still struggling, but he was with her. She led him into the goat pen out back and latched the gate. Stay here until I bring my father, Rashmina whispered. You are safe. The soldier didn't answer. He was too exhausted. He lay motionless on the ground as the goats butted him gently. Rashmina ran inside the house. Her grandmother still sat in the women's room doing needlework, and Zahara played in a corner. Anna, where's Baba? I need him, Rashmina cried. He just left to go down to the fields, her grandmother said. What? She began to ask, but Rashmina was already running out the front door and down the stairs. Baba was slow on his crutch, and Rashmina quickly overtook him. Baba, Baba, come quickly, please, she shouted. There's something I have to show you. Baba nodded, looking concerned, and Rashmina hurried him back to the goat pens. Baba stopped short and gasped when he saw an American soldier lying face down in the dirt. How did this man come to be here? Baba asked. I don't know, Baba, Rashmina said. He must have followed me home when I was collecting wood. Baba's eyes narrowed. Rashmina knew he saw him right through her simple lie. I didn't touch him, Baba, Rashmina said. He was hurt, and he asked me for help. And I came looking for you right away, she explained. Shouldn't we help him, Baba? Isn't that Patswuli? Baba sighed. He suddenly looked older to Rashmina than he ever had before, and her heart broke at the thought of bringing more hardships to him. She knew just how dangerous it would be to harbor an American soldier in their home, but Rashmina also knew her father was an honorable man. If this man has asked for refuge, he will have it, Baba said at last. Rashmina clasped her father's hand in gratitude, then held Baba's crutch for him as he helped the American soldier to his feet. Together, Baba and the soldier hobbled into the house. Rashmina trailed behind them, Anna looking up from her needlework, and her eyes went wide. Oh dear, she said. More Johnny, help him, Baba said to his mother, and Anna quickly stood and spread a sleeping mat on the floor. The American soldier let out a groan of pain as Baba lowered him onto it. Where are we? The American asked, turning his head. What's happened? This is my home, Rashmina told her. You are safe. I am Rashmina, and my father and grandfather are here. Anand leaned over and peered at the soldier's wounds. Thank you, the soldier said. My name's Taz. He had put his head back against wearily on the sleeping mat, then suddenly jerked up again. Wait, did I lose it? He asked. He patted it at his chest until his fans found the brown stuffed animal attached to his vest. Rashmina blinked. She'd seen that stuffed creature before. This was an American soldier who led the search of their house. The soldier seemed to relax when he found the toy. What is that? Rashmina asked him. My Tasmanian devil, said Taz. He's kind of my good luck charm. Rashmina frowned. The word Tasmanian meant nothing to her. She knew the word devil, but the thing didn't look like any devil she'd ever seen. Is that what Americans think the devil looks like? Taz grunted a laugh. No, he's a cartoon character. He spins around and destroys things. Rashmina didn't know what a cartoon was, but destroying things certainly sounded American. That's why they called me Taz, he nodded, for my Tasmanian devil. Rashmina noticed that the word Lowry, not Taz, was sewn on Taz's vest. Most Afghans didn't have family names, but Rashmina knew that from her teaching that many other people in the world used them. Lowry must have been the soldier's family name. And what does DTV mean? Rashmina asked. The letters were tattooed on Taz's arm. Oh, Taz. He pulled his arm against his chest to hide the tattoo, as though he were embarrassed by it. It means, dang, the valley. It's kind of my company's slogan. This valley, it kills our friends and ruins our lives, he said, sadly. Yes, Rashmina said quietly. It's the same for us. Will he live, Morijani? Baba and Baba asked Anna. Anna looked up from Taz's blood-stained leg. I don't know, she said. He's badly wounded and needs a hospital. Rashmina knew that wasn't going to happen. The nearest hospital was in Aspadan, more than a day's walk through the mountains full of the Taliban. Marziha came in from the front door with an armful of wet clothes. She saw the American soldier laid out on the mat, dropped the clothes on the dirt floor, and screamed. Foolish girl, Moore scolded, following Marzia's heels. Now we'll have to wash all of those over again. Moore froze when she saw the American soldier. Taz seemed to sense that he had been discovered by the rest of the family and stayed tensely quiet. No, her mother cried. No, 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 no. Rashmina gulped. She'd known her mother would be furious, but Rashmina had to help him. It was Patsuli. Her mother had to understand. He asked me for help, Rashmina said. Moore's eyes flashed to Rashmina. Rashmina, you foolish girl, she hissed. You have brought death to this family. You have brought death to the entire village. Her mother's words stung as if she had slapped her. Rashmina tried to argue, but her mother turned and marched back into the kitchen. The front door banged open, startled Rashmina. A moment later, her brother's voice came from the front room. Everybody, you'll never guess what happened. Bassoon, he was back. A chill rained down Rashmina's spine. She had never feared her brother before, but lately Bassoon had grown angrier and angrier about the Americans. If he saw Taz in their house, now there was no telling what he would do. Rashmina ran into the front room to intercept her. The Taliban ambushed the Americans and the NAN just like they said they would. Bassoon crowned, he circled the room, wrapped up in the memory of what he had seen. They'd killed them all and dragged their bodies away. Rashmina bit off a gasp. The Taliban wouldn't distinguish between soldiers and their translator, especially not a female one. That meant that Rashmina hiccuped a sob, and then swallowing her grief. She couldn't let Bassoon think she was crying over dead Americans. They even shot down an American helicopter with an RPG. Bassoon said. He mimicked the sound of the rocket-propelling grenades streaking across the sky. Bassoon paused before he could say, boom! Over Rashmina's shoulder, he caught a sight of Anna, Baba, and Marzia huddled in the next room. What's going on? He asked. Rashmina tried to move to block his view, but Bassoon pushed past her. Rashmina faced him after it, but it was too late. Her brother stopped and glared down at the American soldier. His face twisted into an angry scowl. What is that doing here? He cried. He's wounded. He can see, Rashmina said. He needed help. Did you touch him? Passoon cried. No, he followed me here. Rashmina turned to her father for help. But it's Patswuli to help him, isn't it, Baba? To give him refuge, even if he's an enemy. So it's revenge, said Passoon. Or you've forgotten that they killed our sister. Rashmina glanced over at Taz. It was clear that the Americans didn't understand what the family was saying, but he could sense they were arguing. He didn't kill her, Rashmina said. If he didn't do it, his people did, Bassoon said. He probably killed someone else's sister. We should turn him over to the Taliban. No, Rashmina cried. Enough, said Baba. This man has asked for our help, and so we will help him. Rashmina raised her chin to her brother, triumphant. I cannot believe it, Bassoon cried. They're the terrorists here. All of them. They just call it a war. And you let one of the terrorists into our house. If you're not going to tell the Taliban, I am. No, you're not, Baba told him. While you live under my roof, you live by my rules. Then I no longer live under this roof, Bassoon yelled, and he stormed out the back door. Rashmina started to follow him, but Anna reached out for her hand. Let him go, Minijan, she said. He just needs to blow off a little steam. Rashmina nodded. Bassoon had often stormed out after arguing with Baba, and he always came back. But what if this time was different? Rashmina, Taz asked at last, are you there? What's going on? Am I here? Rashmina said in English. My father offers you refuge in our house. I thought I heard someone say Taliban, Taz said. He's not going to turn me over to them, is he? Rashmina translated Taz's question for her father. Tell him that even if there are only women and children left alive to fight in our village, we will not let the Taliban take him. Baba said to Rashmina, he is under our protection now. Women and children might be all that were left. Rashmina thought, along with a few old and wounded men. The very people they were swearing to protect Taz from their village, sons and nephews and brothers, who were left to join the insurgents in the mountains. Rashmina translated her father's assurances for Taz. Ah, wow. Tell him thank you, Manana, Taz said in bad accented Pashto. Thank you. There's no guarantee the Taliban will respect Pashtunwali, Baba said, and the longer this man stays here, the longer he is danger to himself and us. He must be returned to his people as soon as possible. My friends will come looking for me, Taz said, the other soldiers who were with me. The other soldiers are dead, Rashmina told him. She hated to be so blunt, but she didn't have the words to say it more gently. So in Apik, so is in Apik, she said. She didn't know the English word for helicopter, but she knew Taz would understand. Her teacher had taught her that the Americans named their flying death shifts after other tribes that they had conquered. The Taliban killed them all and took their bodies. Rashmina said, I am sorry. Taz lay back stunned. The other American, him too? I think so, yes, said Rashmina. Tears welled in the corners of Taz's blackened eyes. That guy was my brother, Taz said. They all were, and today, of all days. The Afghans, the woman also? Moran? She was your brother, Rashmina asked. She was your brother, sorry. Not really my brothers. I trained with those men, that woman, for a long time. They were like family, my people. Do you understand? Your tribe, Rashmina said. Yes, said Taz, my tribe. He wiped his eyes. Tell your father my radio is broken, and if my people think the Taliban killed me and took me away, they won't come back here looking for me. Rashmina translated for her father, and Baba nodded. I must go and tell the other families in the village, he said. They must know what we have done. Then I will go to the NAN base and tell them this American is here. They can let the Americans in Abbottabad know. Rashmina looked at her father in surprise. The base was almost 5 kilometers from here. It would be hard a journey on foot for anyone, let alone a man on a crutch. Someone else should go, Baba, Marzia told him, speaking up for the first time since she'd seen Taz. Their father shook his head. It must be me. Our family has offered this man refuge. He is our responsibility. Rashmina felt a jumble of emotions. She would have gladly gone in Baba's place, but no family would ever send a daughter to an army base alone. Bassoon could have gone instead, but he had made it clear he no longer stood with his family. Rashmina turned back to Taz and explained in English what her father planned to do. Taz thanked him again and pulled the strip of cloth that read Lowry off his uniform with a loud ripping sound. Give this to your father, he said. I'm Special Forces, assigned to advise the base he's going to. Tell him to show this to the Afghan soldiers there, and they'll know I'm really here. Baba took the strip of cloth from Rashmina. Keep Zahir in the room whenever one of you is with a soldier, he said, and she understood. Neither she nor Mirazna nor Anna nor her mother would be allowed in the same room as Taz without a male member of the family as a chaperone. Zahir was hardly a helpful escort, but he still counted. Baba left the house, and Taz lay back to rest. Anna sent Marzia for hot water and a cloth to clean Taz's wounds, and Moore called angrily from the kitchen for the firewood Rashmina was supposed to have collected. The firewood, Rashmina said. Twice today her chores had been interrupted. I'll be back, she told Anna. Then they said the same to Taz in English. He was already asleep. Marzia and I will watch over him, Anna told her, and Rashmina ran out the back door. The goats bleated at her, angry they hadn't been taken up into the mountains to graze. Rashmina stopped. Where was Bassoon? When her brother wanted to go somewhere and be mad, he disappeared into the hills with the goats and didn't come back until he calmed down. What if this time he really had gone to join the Taliban? No, Rashmina couldn't believe he'd do it. Still itched in the back of her brain. Today had been different in so many ways. The raid, the woman translator, the American soldier in their home. What if Bassoon seeing Taz really was the last straw for her brother? There was one sure way to know. Rashmina ran the side of the house, her heart hammering in her chest. Halfway along the wall sat an upside-down white plastic bucket. Rashmina climbed on the top of it, reached as high as she could, and she found a little hole in the wall where Bassoon always hid his toy airplane. It was empty. Rashmina knew Bassoon had put the plane back after the Americans left. Of few things Bassoon owned, that toy was the one thing her brother would never leave behind. It was gone now. Bassoon was too. Gone to join the Taliban until Taz was alive and hiding in their home. If Bassoon got to the Taliban before the fathers got to the ANA base, Rashmina hopped off the bucket and sprinted for the goat path that led up the mountains. She didn't go back to tell anyone where she was headed. She didn't have time. Rashmina had to catch her brother and stop him from joining the Taliban. Thank you for listening.